And showtime. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the ChannelPro 5-Minute Roundup. Get news, trends, and tips for the SMB channel in 5 minutes or thereabouts. My name is Rich Freeman. I'm executive editor of ChannelPro Network, also a co-host of this program. I am standing side by physical side today with your other co-host, Eric Simpson, business transformation and improvement advisor to MSPs and other IT providers. Eric, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Yes, no trickery, no green screen. We are actually together for the first time this year.
Yes.
In 2022. So yeah. Feels kind of good, Rich.
It does. It feels great. And for those who are watching on video, you can see where we are. We are at the SMB Tech Fest conference here in Irvine, California, hosted by our good friend Dave Seibert on www.smbtechfest.com to check it out. There's a great series of events, and we are at the Q2 event that they do April every year. Very interesting show.
Yeah, quarterly event. Must attend. If you haven't been to one, you're missing out.
Well, let's dive into our top story here. And I don't think this selection is going to surprise anybody one bit, because obviously the huge earthquake level story of the week is that Kaseya intends to buy Datto and has the support of the boards and enough of the shareholder support. This is going to happen, assuming the federal government doesn't get in the way. So Datto is going to become part of Kaseya. Now, as we are recording this, just about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, I actually had an opportunity to speak with Fred Vicola, who is the CEO of Kaseya, and really for the first time, get an opportunity to hear straight from him the thinking behind this deal, and what this deal is going to mean for Kaseya and for Datto. And I should preface everything we're about to say the same way he did with me, which is to say that Datto is a publicly listed company. There are federal laws at play here. There are SEC regulations. So he was very limited in what he could say definitively by law. And so the approach that he kind of took to addressing some of the concerns that he knows are out there in the partner community is to say, look at what we have done in the past when we have acquired a company. Kaseya, under Fred's leadership, has acquired, I think he said it was 12 companies at this point. And he said, if you're concerned about Datto going away, you're concerned about the things you like about Datto going away, look at what we've done with the other companies that we have acquired. And what they have done basically is continue to operate those businesses as independent businesses. There is still a Unitrends out there. There is still a Rapid Fire Tools. There is still an IT Glue. Those are all units, subsidiaries of Kaseya, but they continue to operate independently as well under the original brand. The leadership team, assuming it decides to stick around, tends to stick around. And I know from conversations with Fred in the past that he's very adamant. He never wants to mess with the thing that made a company worth buying in the first place. And so he said one of the things that made Datto worth buying is the culture and the support and the community and all the things that Datto partners are concerned that they're going to lose. He says you shouldn't expect that. He also kind of set the expectation, because obviously one of the first things I thought when I heard about this is, well, you're going to have 2 RMMs, 2 PSAs, 2 BDR families. Are you going to drop this one or that one? It does not, again, you can't speak definitively to this, but it certainly doesn't sound like the plan. The plan is to just give Kaseya and Datto partners more choices, essentially. The way, and I'm doing this from memory, but at one point in the conversation, he said, some people like the button on the left side of the screen, some people like it on the right side of the screen. We're going to have both options for you, and you will get to choose which one that you want. What are some of the other concerns? There are some people out there who are concerned about having too many eggs in one basket. If you are using Kaseya and Datto products and like diversifying across vendors that way. And he basically said from his perspective, from a Kaseya perspective, fewer vendors to manage, tighter integration among your products is an advantage. And he hopes to persuade MSPs that this is true. If he fails to do that for this or that MSP out there, he said, look, we we're not encouraging anybody to walk away, but there are other vendors out there. So if you really feel the need to diversify your vendor base, there are other companies that make PSAs, other companies that make RMS. So you're not stuck with Kaseya and Datto going forward. So I'll kind of cut it off there and get your take on this, Eric. I think he was working very hard to indicate that Kaseya intends to preserve the products and the culture and the community and the things that people like about Datto, and to, if anything, enable the company to do more faster because they're going to invest in it. And maybe some of what you like about Datto, sort of suffuses itself out around Kaseya.
Yeah, it's a very strategic mic dropping moment. I happen to have a mic. This is the mic that I have, but the mic that I heard drop this week with this news, Rich, felt a lot heavier than this one. I mean, it was a seismic kind of a news event, right? And I think, I've got to give it to Fred and Kaseya, when he talks about, look, we've acquired these organizations, but we pretty much allow them to operate the way they have. What they've done, what Kaseya has done is infuse them with more capital, right? Provide them a runway, and then use that goodwill from the existing partners from that organization that they've acquired to introduce them to these other products and services. I think it's very strategic. And then to that point that you made about, hey, now I have 2 of these, I have 3 of these now. What, to some folks, it may not make sense, but I look at it a different way. I look at it as kind of future proofing, right? Because if you have one solution, and I'm looking at this very kind of in the moment, right? Because this is all new to us too. If you have one solution for that particular need for a partner, then the partner has no choice if they want to explore other options than to go to a competitor. So now I have a couple of different solutions for you, stay right here and figure out what works best for you. So I think it's a very canny way of creating some potential retention and keeping partners in. And the other thing that I think that they've done well, Kaseya as an organization, is investing in the integration between all of the acquisitions, right? They've been doing a lot of that. That's been kind of a directive, is to say you must, begin to integrate between each other. And I think that just creates competitive advantage. Now, what are the gotchas, right? I think there's going to be some, obviously, you mentioned it, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Lots of eggs in one basket, right? And I'll talk about that in our tip of the week.
And the other thing that I'll quickly point out before we move on to that, because I was thinking about it earlier today. When Thoma Bravo, the private equity firm, bought ConnectWise, and we spoke to Fred about that, he said, "Look, I've been through these things a lot of times before, and no matter how good the management is, it's a distraction. The process of integrating companies, adjusting to new ownership, it is a distraction." So assuming that this deal really does clear federal scrutiny and move forward, that it's going to be a lot of work bringing these companies together. And so that'll be something to keep an eye on as well, is how good are they at keeping their eye on the ball while they're trying to onboard Datto and really complete the deal.
Yeah, you also mentioned, the fact that Datto is a publicly traded company. And I know in your conversation with Fred, probably talked about that, kind of, hey, it's, we can't say a lot about it, but, I seem to recall reading somewhere, and again, very, very, new news, right? We're trying to keep up with what's happening. Is the intention to take Datto private through the process here, or are they how's that gonna work?
Well, yeah, I believe that's exactly how the process works. I mean, so Kaseya is a privately held company, and they have offered, this is off the top of my head, but I think it's $35 a share to Datto owners. So they're going to buy out Datto's shareholders, and in the process of buying the company, take it private.
And the offer price, like she read, it was 6.2 with a B on the end of it, somewhere in that area, $6.2 billion. Did he confirm that with you?
Yeah, well, I believe that was in the press release. I think that number is real, 6.2 billion. Although I will say this, in jest at the end of this conversation, he said, but Elon Musk is going to pay 40 something for Twitter, apparently. So that's not actually all that big a number.
Right, yeah, well, okay, Elon and Kaseya in the same sense. I mean, that's aspirational,
Yeah.
right? Interesting. Yeah, well, that's the news. That is, and the aftershocks, have reached Kaseya's competitors. I've been hearing from, folks that I know at other competitors going, wow, right? Like just wow, didn't see that coming. So,
well, Eric, you whet my appetite before on the tip of the week. So what is the tip of the week?
fear, uncertainty, and doubt, how to overcome it. So look, Rich, I mean, there's no easy way to sugarcoat news that can impact an organization as much as a big shift in a strategic vendor partner strategy, right? As a recovering or former MSP myself, right? I was always trying to keep ahead of what my strategic vendor partners were doing in terms of changing programs, changing pricing, acquiring, spinning off business units and things like that. And I think the real question that partners have to deal with today that they didn't have to deal with when I had my MSP, back in the early 2000s, is this massive consolidation that we're seeing amongst these vendors. I mean, we are seeing M&A activity like we have never seen before. And if you look at it from one perspective, it kind of, it presents risk to the partner. Like, okay, I have my eggs in this basket. Somebody that and maybe you have this situation as an MSP partner, right? You have vendors that you truly love, like, man, I'm knocking out of the park. And you have some vendors that you think, oh, the pain isn't great enough yet for me to get off sitting off this nail, right? But the fear, uncertainty, and doubt that happens when you have potential vendor relationships where you have kind of a mixed perspective of these things could shadow good strategic decision making. So what I mean by this is to say, oh, holy cow, I'm seeing a lot of this already on Reddit and all kinds of things. People just, the internet being the devil, just bashing or praising, you're on one side or the other. And things are so polarized now. I'm saying do not react emotionally and make any decisions until you have data to justify that decision. Whether you love Datto, whether you love Kaseya, or the opposite, right? You may have mixed feelings right now. And, you and I are talking to partners and we're getting all of it from both sides, right? This, that, the other thing. I mean, I was on a webinar this morning and people were in the chat talking about it. It wasn't even about that, right? And so this is permeating, right? Make your own decisions, get the facts, don't be swayed by, and I mean, don't even be swayed by what, Kaseya might be saying, what Datto might be saying. Get all the facts, get the data. This deal still has a lot of hurdles to jump in order to become real. But, I used to make that mistake early in my career, is like think one way and then later find out, oh my goodness, that was unfounded, right? And maybe regret a decision or pull the trigger too soon. So it's all about, this is not a sprint, in running an MSP practice. It's tough doing this stuff. So, the maturity that comes with taking everything with a little bit of grain of salt, planning for options. Okay, well, if this does happen, what does that mean to me and my clients? What does that mean to me and my prospects? Do I now have an opportunity? Because this is the other thing that, savvy MSPs have found out. When there's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, they can actually get concessions from their vendor partners now, right? To help quell some of this fear, to make them feel a little bit better. So explore your options, get all the facts, don't make any hasty decisions. And then at the end of the day, make the best decision that's right for you. Don't be swayed by what the internet is saying.
Yeah, there are a few things about it that I really like. And one is, basing the decision on hard facts and not emotion. And also just, recognizing the fact that you don't need to make a decision right now. I mean, I came to this show straight from the Channel Partners Expo in Las Vegas earlier this week. And so I was there like right when the news broke. And I was talking to people who were, you know, like, well, I guess I've got to get in the market for a new PSA or whatever. And
Crazy things people say, right? Just because they heard something and with no fact, no independent data. Sorry, go ahead.
well, you know, after you've kind of done your research and your homework, you may decide that really is a smart thing for your business, but don't jump into something like that that obviously has an enormous cost right away, based on first impressions. And you know, there's so, like you said, there's so little real information out there right now. We're going to learn a lot more from Kaseya and from Datto, you know, as we get closer to this deal closing and after it actually closes. So yeah, don't jump to anything that's going to be hard to jump away from later on. And like you said, be prepared, start thinking about what this could mean to your business and what you would do under certain circumstances.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, Rich, I mean, we all, you know, no matter what your personal opinion is, I mean, these are very successful companies that have, you know, great, you know, feedback from partners and things like that. You've got to believe, right, and trust that they've done the analysis themselves, right? You don't get acquired by somebody you think isn't going to help you grow and keep your partners satisfied. And you don't acquire an organization that you don't believe is going to do the same for the rest of your client base, right? So again, just looking at it from a different perspective, right? Hey, these are accomplished, successful organizations with great strategic leadership. They're not going to go into, you know, an engagement like this, especially at that strike price, without having done all of the analysis. Say hi to our,
Ladies and gentlemen, the host of the SMB Tech Fest. We're recording the 5-minute update.
say hi, Dave. 5-minute roundup. Some buddies and friends.
Here we go. I'll take a picture. Hang on here.
Now you gotta go. It's going to just like this.
Okay, one more.
Now come around this way. Lisa, take one with the camera and the laptop. No, but come over by Dave's side. Shoot you this. Oh, this is great. This is, yeah, because that was in. Wow. Here we are. And that's it.
It's been here.
We need to talk.
All right. And you know what? Let's ordinarily we would end this show with some sort of amusing piece from the news. But could anything be more amusing than that? I think
We just got our humor segment right there, everybody.
so. Folks, thank you so much for joining us on the 5-minute roundup. We're going to be back again next week with another episode for you. You know what? We are both a video and a podcast these days. So if you're watching us on video, but you like to listen to podcasts, go to wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's Stitcher, Google, Apple, Spotify, you name it, you're going to find us there. So please subscribe, rate, review. We really appreciate it. If you're listening right now, but you're curious to check out the video, easiest thing to do is go to YouTube, look for the ChannelPro Network channel there. You can subscribe on YouTube as well. And if you click the bell icon, you can even get notified by YouTube when the new episodes go up. I just spoke to Fred McCullough. I'm going to have an article on ChannelProNetwork.com about that later today. There's going to be more coverage coming. You're going to get all sorts of information that you can use to grow your business there as well. So visit ChannelProNetwork.com every day. You want to learn more about Eric and the work that he does with his clients, you want to visit ErickSimpson.com. That is ERICK Simpson.com. Once again, we thank you for joining us. We're going to check in with you again next week. Until then, please enjoy the rest of your week. Eric and I are enjoying the rest of your week already.